Dear students, welcome to this lecture video. In this lecture video, I will focus on this particular problem of the homework. Some of you may find it a little more difficult than the others to solve, so I wanted to go over it quickly. So what we have to do, we have to assign a long-term debt rating using financial ratios. We have some information about Stryker's financial statements, revenue, depreciation, expense, and so on and so forth. Compute the following Moody's matrix. So if you remember, Moody is one of the major credit rating agencies in the US. So compute the following Moody's matrix for a Stryker and identify the Moody's rating or rating range if the metric is between two ratings for each metric using the measures in Exhibit 4.4. If a metric is under ratio, enter the amount in the results column. Leave all amounts in millions of dollars except for metric 7, revenue. Revenue is actually metric 3, so that is a typo, which should be stated in billions. So first of all, what is Exhibit 4.4? So we have to go to the textbook for this. So if you go to, so you can see Exhibit 4.4 already here, but if you go to Module 4, Credit Ratings, so this is Exhibit 4.4. So what it does is actually uses ratings of AAA, AA, A, BAA, so on and so forth for each metric depending on their values. For example, debt over EBITDA. So if a company has higher debt relative to EBITDA, it is considered riskier than a lower ratio of the lower value of this ratio, right? So as this value increases, the big company becomes riskier based on this particular metric. So the rating also decreases. Similarly, in this case, it is EBITDA over interest expense. So if the value of this ratio is high, so that means this company can afford to pay its interest expenses, right? It has more cash flow, right? More higher ability to pay its interest expenses. So in this case, as this ratio increases, the company's financial position gets better, so the rating increases, right? So similarly, when a company has a higher sales revenue, rating increases. EBITDA margin is also higher the value of this ratio, better it is, so this increases, rating increases. Operating margin, again, this is EBIT over sales, right? So again, higher value means it is better. So the value increases, rating increases. And FFO, so there is a note, FFO is funds from operations, which is cash from operating activities before changes in working capital and changes in other short-term and long-term operating assets and liabilities. So we have to look at FFO, funds from operations, and this is how you can calculate funds from operations over debt. Again, higher the value, right? So debt is the riskier part. So if the value is higher, better it is. So the value increases, rating improves. Similarly, it is a variant of this ratio. FFO plus interest expense over interest expense. So higher value means the company has higher ability, right, to pay off its interest expense. So rating improves as the value increases. Similarly, this as the EBITDA to average assets increases, rating should increase, right? Rating should improve. But here what we see though, we see, yes, initially as this ratio increases, rating increases, but there is little bit of disruption here, right? This decreases from 10.8% to 10.2%, but the rating actually improves. Similarly here, this decreases from 15.1% to 12%. So that actually improves. Typically, we would expect a deterioration in the rating, right? But Moody's actually explains it here. So when Moody's does analyze financial ratios, it uses a multivariate approach. So you can think of it as a tool like multiple regression, right? Not one variable. As a result, a simple monotonic relationship means you will see the direction of the relationship in the same way. So like we saw in all these other ratios, there will not be any disruption or change in direction in the relationship. But as a result, a simple monotonic relationship between ratings and any single ratio should not generally be accepted. Okay, so we just have to keep this in mind when we solve our problem. So let's go back to our problem here. Okay, doesn't look like we can. Okay, maybe we can see this table. Okay. So first, debt over EBITDA, right? So of course, the numerator will be total debt, which is, should be able to copy, paste here. And denominator will be EBITDA. And EBITDA is not given here, right? So what is EBITDA? Let me explain a little bit. EBITDA is EBIT. So EBIT is earnings before interest and taxes. And EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So all you have to do, add the amortization and depreciation expense to EBIT. Then you will get EBITDA. So in other words, amortization, right? So in our problem, EBITDA will be EBIT, so 2416 plus 2461 actually. 2461 and then plus 404, so 404 plus 297 plus 297, so which is 3162. I'll paste here and this will be calculated for you, right? And now question is, how do you decide on the rating, right? So what we have to do, we have to go back to the exhibit, look at value closer to this. So 2.96, and we are talking about debt over EBITDA. So we have debt over EBITDA here, and higher the value, worse it is, right? Because debt is risky. So we have 2.96, which is between these two, 2.6 and 3.3, right? So the rating will be BAA to BA. So it will be BAA to BA. So you will actually follow the same process for each of the other metrics. Let me go over one more here. So EBITDA to average assets. So what is EBITDA? So we have EBIT, and I already described EBITDA with an D inside, but here we don't have D. So it is earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. So all we have to do, add amortization to EBIT. So let's do that. So 2,461 plus 404. So 2,865. So this is our EBITDA, 65. And your average assets, which is 23,477. So good thing about this problem is you don't have to calculate the ratio, right? It is auto-calculated. So now it is 12.20, EBITDA to average assets. So EBITDA to average assets, and we have 12.2. So 12.2 is closer to 12. Now, generally what happens as you because it is EBITDA to average assets, and EBITDA is a measure of profit, right? Earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. So generally you will expect higher the value, better it is. So what we are going to do here is we are going to ignore this disruption here. So from 10.8 to 10.2, it should have increased. So what we are going to do, we are going to consider 12.2 between this 15.1 and 10.2. So which will be A to BAA. So you'll follow the same process for the other metrics. I just wanted to quickly go over this problem to help you. So hopefully it is helpful. I will see you guys in the next lecture video. So take care. Bye.